Alrighty, folks. Welcome back to the Mushing Alaska podcast coverage of the 2023 Iditarod. We're your hosts, Brendan and Sean. And, well, let's get right to it. I'm going to take us down here to Shaktoolik, 777 miles into the Iditarod. And bada bing, bada boom, we've got some shit going on, guys, here. We've got Diehl. He's got into Shaktoolik. Let's see. Diehl arrived at 3:24, so he's going to be resting here for a little bit. And then Kaiser's over here at mile 782, although this is about 20 minutes delayed on my end. But you can see the point is, at the time when I made this, Kaiser was at 782. Redington was at 788, so they're only 6 miles apart. As I look at the live tracker right now, quick little update, and it looks like they are 7 miles apart. So it's exciting right now. Sorry to just take over like that off the top, Sean, but what are your thoughts there?
Nah, dude, I like it when you break it down, dude. You break it down. All right, good. It's good. So Ryan Redington and Pete Kaiser have now separated themselves from Richie Diehl. It's a mono v mono. Richie Diehl though is waiting and lying in wait for if when Pete Kaiser, Ryan Redington, maybe they push a little too hard. A lot of if I'm gonna copy all the analysis, 100% of it from Dallas CV
Here
because
we go,
the
baby.
man had a 10-minute interview and I just like rocked my world on the what's going on. And man, if you right now you can get Iditarod Insider, by the way, for like the last 48 hours of the race for $15 instead of 40. So,
Do
if
it.
anything, just go and do that. Pay
Oh,
$15 for this Dallas
oh
interview
my
because
gosh.
it'll just explain everything. There's like, I mean, we could should just play that for the next 10 minutes. But anyways, what he was saying is, Richie Deal, you want to keep your team strong, run the team in front of you, uh, you know, keep your speed and be ready to take over. If one of the front two falls back because they make a big move uh, and then he said that Redington has a faster team, but Kaiser has more depth, and that Dallas, this says a lot. This is the biggest hot take that Dallas had in the 10 minutes. He said, even as it stands right now, he would take Pete Kaiser to win it. And 7 miles behind, uh, they're going essentially the same speed. The trail's really hard out there. I think, with all that warm weather, it just compacted all the snow, and that water that gets into the snow just kind of helps it fall down, and then once it freezes, it gets really, really hard. So, even though they might be blowing 20 plus 30, maybe even like 40 miles an hour out there on the Norton Sound, these guys are going over 9 miles an hour. And I was telling this to Brandon before this. I just think that across the board from first place to last place, that this race, I mean, it's just been like a masterclass in mushing. You know, people are this is just a bunch of competent people that know how to take care of the dogs. I'm not maybe someone will end up scratching here, and who knows, but I just feel like by and large, there's just no one doing something ridiculous. No one's, making these obviously, bad moves or pushing too hard or whatever. It's just like everyone's going like 8 miles an hour, 9 miles an hour. And yeah, I am just really impressed. It's been fun to watch, and it's like says a lot about these participants. Uh,
And
right now,
as you say
go ahead.
that, I'm literally updating the two rookies, Eddie Burke and Hunter Keefe, and as it looks like on the GPS right now, it appears that Eddie's running. He's at mile 757. Let me just click on that for y'all. So he's at 757 here, and then just right behind him is Hunter Keefe. It's appearing as if he's resting. Are you seeing the same thing on your end? Oh, I just updated. Now it says it's running. So that's
Yeah,
the
Hunter Keefe and Eddie Burke are 100% within eyesight of each other, and potentially, really, right? Potentially one's passing the other. They're so close on the tracker. I mean, this is literally, we're talking seconds of a difference that they're gonna arrive in the Tulik. And Rookie of the Year, you get a nice fat check, by the way, for Rookie of the Year. Like, no matter what position you come in, I think you get a few grand at least. And then, of course, these guys top it off with a top five finish if that they potentially could get. You know, yeah, it's a nice paycheck. It's gonna go straight back into the dog food and the truck fuel, but that's man, that helps out. That's a little extra incentive. Um, Matt Hall, dude,
I know, man.
guy's just like
Super impressive.
slaying, making some moves, and he knows how to race. He's a Yukon Quest 1000 champion. The guy knows what's up, and he's built his dog team up really strong team, and been pretty conservative. And so you see him kind of making a few moves up there. Uh, Milla is had that respectable, just I thought maybe she didn't hasn't had the fastest run times, but like somehow she's there. She's sixth, seventh place right now. That group is going. Uh, they're going through the Blueberry Hills that are just outside of Unalakleet, and it's a really epic run. Like just crazy hills that are really sporty and fun, and then you get like to the top of the hills, and then you just like drop straight down onto the coast, like right back to sea level, and then you mush that straight line back over up to Shaktoolik. Um, but yeah, I mean, all these positions behind Richie Diehl, from Matt Hall all the way back to Wade Mars, and maybe some of the folks in Unalakleet like Dan Caduce, who's just cruising
Oh
at
my
an
gosh.
average. I was average like 9.5 miles an hour. Uh, I don't know what that run was. It was probably let's see here. But yeah, I mean, the guy is just, he's just so stubborn about his dog care. He's just like, dude, I'm not pushing at all. He's like in 20 something place, like the first half of
Caduce.
this race. Doesn't matter. He's
Into
just like, bruh,
Unilocleat, 15 hour, 18 minute, and that was, with a break too.
with the
So
rest.
yeah.
Yeah. But like before that, we go Dan Caduce into Eagle Island. Let's see. I think it was that. He had the fastest run time of any team. I'm not, let's see, Dan Caduce, except for Pete Kaiser. That was
Wow.
the fastest times from uh Grayling to Eagle Island. So
And
yeah, Pete's got a strong team and he's got a big team. I think he's got 11 dogs. Um, Ryan Ransom also has 11 dogs, but let's see, how many dogs do they have actually? Let's see. Yeah, he has 11 dogs. Pete's down to 10, but by Dallas's analysis, who's there in the flesh, watching these dog teams run, seeing their body language, he's saying Pete Kaiser's team's got a little more depth. I don't even really know what that means, but it seems they got a really strong 10 dogs, and maybe the core of Ryan Redington's team's a little smaller than 11. Maybe he's got seven core dogs and four dogs that are like, okay, well, this is interesting. What's going on here?
sure.
So yeah, my point is Dan Caduce, you got Christian Turner has been turning on the Christian Turner with the burners. Okay. This guy's turning on the heat as well. He's got some good run times. He let's see, going into Eagle Island. Uh maybe he took a little bit of a break there, but he snuck into the top like 12. What's that? 3, 6.
Well, yeah.
Or he's 13th, 12th place maybe. I mean, I don't know. He's just another guy that's just kind of hanging back. And I've told you guys this before. I freaking love it when people just hang back, build their team, get a bunch of rest, bank it out. Don't worry about racing. Run the team in front of you. Get to the coast, and boom. lurking in the shadows. You got Dan Caduce and Christian Turner and Matt Hall,
Dude,
and no one
honestly,
paid any mind to them.
so Wade Mars just took off out of Unilocleat. I'm gonna update that here on the map. But are we gonna have like a little strong push here where he tries to get like touch the top five? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. He's already made like a bunch of strong pushes, so I don't know how many he's got left. He took a nice rest on the way to Unilocleat, and he's gonna push to Shaktoolik. We'll see how long he rests there, and probably he will maybe camp somewhere after Koyak. And look, the trail's good. The trail's good. The weather for the coast is good. And by the way, good weather for the coast is 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. Um, but it's not going to stop these teams when you got a hard trail. And I think it's not. There might not be a forecast for like stronger winds until right when they're about to be scheduled to get to the finish. These front runners, which we'll be keeping in mind for the back of the pack, who always seem to get totally hosed with the weather. As those the back of the Packers just get the biblical storms. It seems like more years than not. Um, let's see, but
Speaking of,
yeah, I think Wade's he's the Iron Wade, dude. Of course, you got to watch out for this man to be sneaking into the top five.
I love it. I love it. Earlier we were talking about the arts, dude. The man is making some moves, man. I'm liking the speed I'm seeing. You know, tell us more about your thoughts on this.
Um, Dude, Gerhardt, firstly, has only been running mid and long distance level kind of Alaskan Husky mushing career, right? It's only been going on for like 3 years. He did work with dogs before that, sled dogs, but just like sprint dogs and completely different. Um, so, you know, I feel like when I saw him, I got to know him a little bit. We trained dogs together for a time, and I feel like he was still really on like learning and was just a sponge, just absorbing as much information from as many people as he possibly could. He's a super humble guy, and he, you know, is out here now, almost over 600 miles into the Iditarod, and this man is running uh as the exact kind of race that you'd love to see. He's running 8, 9 miles an hour up the Yukon River. I mean, his dog team is clearly really moving well and strong and fast. And, you're towards this back half of the race, he's a rookie still because he didn't finish, but this man is running dogs like a veteran. So it's good. You love to see it.
Yeah, and the other thing we were noticing is that it seems like the Barringtons are really kind of slowing down. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Is that kind of like what happens when you start to run collectively? Like, if one thing's going wrong with one team, the other team stops to help, kind of thing? Or do you think that there's like maybe some more things at play that we're not thinking about?
I think it's the latter. I think there's more things at play that we're not thinking about. Right now, their trackers have updated to running 9 miles an hour. So my guess would be that there's some punchy, soft trail, maybe a little bit of slush, maybe a little overflow, something that slowed the team down. It looks like they take a small break, and maybe the dog's feet got a little wet and they had to rebooty some of them. Um, I'm, I'm, I really don't quite buy that they're slowing down. I think we just kind of saw. And there's also potential that trackers are inaccurate. But we're going to see, Gerhardt pass through that same stretch of trail here in, less than an hour. We'll see if he slows down as well. That's my bet is that there's just some slow sections of trail there on the Yukon River.
Got you. Okay. Fair enough, sir.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, should we go back to the pack and like, what do we think? How do we see things playing out here? As we speak. Let's just see a quick little update. So Redington's at 797. So he's just gained 2 miles since the last update that I put in here. He's at 8.9 miles. Pete Kaiser's at 9.6 currently. Um, you know, at what point I see that Ryan has 11 dogs, Pete has 10 dogs. At what point does the like final dogs decision get made? Like, isn't there a point where you kind of like go down to maybe 8 dogs to like really just like lessen the load and also like lessen the time it takes to do all the different chores when they're doing their different stops?
Um, I wouldn't say that's like a top priority to like get a small dog team, small strong dog team, but it is something they're thinking about. You know, if you're as you're getting to White Mountain, and you're like, look, I know these 7 dogs are dynamite, and this 8 dog is also doing pretty well, but I don't know. I think it's possible he might, slow us down. You, all right, I'll take 7, and I'll go super light and you know, you 7 good dogs. I mean, doesn't necessarily more dogs doesn't necessarily mean more speed all the time. And you've seen Iditarod winners finish with the minimum amount of dogs because they drop a couple that they might be unsure about at White Mountain, and they take the 5 that they know are solid. And you know, I don't think you're gonna see people just sending a dog home just to get a smaller team. That's maybe one factor, but you'd have to have something else that you're seeing with that dog that you're leaving home. You're not, if you have 10 all-star dogs, I don't really think it's worth uh, sending a dog home just so that you can get them bedded down, 1 minute or 2 minutes faster.
Right. So I was just kind of like looking at the mileage here on the map, and so Koyuk's 827, and Redington's at 797. So we're looking at essentially 30 miles out, and at the pace that he's running, that puts him there at what another 3-ish hours, maybe 3 and some change, if he's able to keep up the pace that he's at. Um, you know, is that a situation where he stays in Koyuk? Does he blow through and maybe add another 10, 15 miles onto that and camp outside of that? What are your, what's your thoughts on any sort of a strategy going on here?
I think that I mean, this is it. I mean, this is the decision, right? Like Dallas said, the closer you get to the finish line, the more weight the strategic decision that you make holds. And literally, it only takes one poor judgment call for you to not be in the lead of the Iditarod. Um, and right now I just want to say this run is like the infamous run. They're literally running on the freaking Bering Sea. They're running on the ocean. It's wild. And
What?
this run is deceiving because you can see Koyak sits on the coast on a hill, so you can see Koyak for hours, and it looks like so close, but it's so far. And the wind, I believe they have a headwind, and these guys are still putting in 8.9 and 9.6 miles an hour out there on the sea ice because you got a bunch of veteran dogs and veteran mushers that are more confident than heck. And of course, you got a hard trail. Now, the strategy: they both stopped in Shaktoolik for 3.5 hours. If they go from Shaktoolik to Koyak, I would consider, and they rest in Koyak, I would consider that to be a conservative move. And I'm certain that I'm okay. I don't want to say certain, but I'm fairly sure at least one of them, probably both of them, are going to go through Koyak. And you can make this uh 50-mile run. Let's see, from Koyak to Elam, we got 875. So you got a 48-mile, let's call it a 50-mile run from Koyak to Elam, and a 50-mile run from Shaktoolik to Koyak.
But here, let me ask this. Okay, so I pulled up the notes on Redington. All right, so he did a straight 10-hour into Unalakleet from Caltag. From there, he proceeded to take an under 4-hour break. Right, he then 5-hour and 13-minute into Shaktoolik. right? Like at some point, that's got to catch up to him. He took a 10-hour break and didn't even take 4 hour, or excuse me, a 10-hour run. I don't know. Like that's is that just me being naive to what these dogs are capable of, or you know, I just think at some point he's going to have to take a longer break, or is it just like he knows that he's got the 8 in the bag at White Mountain and he's just gonna kind of ride that out?
Um, yeah, dude. I mean, I just gotta commend you for like that being the most, and the just like that you just made an incredible point. Absolutely, dude. That is a huge factor, and you're nailing it, dude. Uh, he 10 plus hour run to Unalakleet for less than what was it, a 4 hour run rest there,
Yep.
then a 5 plus hour run, less than 4 hour rest. All right, now he's going across the sea ice to Koyuk. Yeah, there's a cumulative effect of the short rest. You can only do so many 4 hour rests before you're going to start to see the speeds of the dogs drop. Um, but he's also got that 7 mile lead. They've got from Shaktoolik to White Mountain is let's see, we got 142 miles. So something like that. Or maybe it's 44. So
77.
140 something miles from Shaktoolik to White Mountain. You have an 8 hour rest in White Mountain. How do you want to break that
151.
up?
I think it's
You could
151.
go 151. Okay. Shaktoolik to White Mountain's 151. I feel like that doesn't make sense to me. Um, but 921 minus 777, whatever that is.
Yep.
So,
I don't have my phone on me.
anyways, that's a you could do in theory if you're like got a strong dog team, which Pete Kaiser, according to Dallas and according to Bruce Lee and according to anyone who's anyone, has been saying for the last 400 miles, watch out for Pete Kaiser, right? We know Ryan Redington's out in front. He's been in the lead the entire race, which, by the way, super rare to just like be in the lead. I guess not super rare at Dallas is. Typically he comes from behind, but someone like Mitch has been out in front for a while. But it's kind of cool to see someone out in front and just be continually staying out there. But yeah, is Pete Kaiser, is he going to be making that move and cutting this, which typically 3 runs, Shaktoolik to White Mountain? Uh, he could be cutting it into 2 runs. Maybe he does 275s with a 4 hour rest in between. Then you've got 8 hours waiting for you in White Mountain. If you feel like your team's strong, you could pull that off. But gosh, I can't. I just don't know. I don't know what they're going to end up doing. I think it takes a certain level of boldness to do that. And you know, the other option could just be that you stop in Koyak, instead of for 4 hours, you stop for 2 hours, you know, and you just at least shut them down for a second, let them get a snack, close their eyes, and just lay down. And maybe they won't get it, deep into their REM cycle, but they're gonna they can afford to do that when you have 8 hours waiting for you and whatnot. So man, strategy here, their brains got to be just pinging at
And how they
just
make
a
these
thousand
like
thoughts a minute.
how they make these such like it's they're calculating this with at a time when they're so sleep deprived, like how could like we're
Yeah,
struggling to like figure out the math and we're not out there for this is what day 7 of the race, so
right.
and I have Pete's kind of some of his notes. So he from Caltag he went to mile 717 outside of Unalakleet, and he took a what was a 3:45 break, right, and then he did 7 hours to Shaktoolik, which was 60 miles, and there he took a 3.5 hour break. So he's kind of got like a 2-to-1 going right now, which doesn't also seem sustainable forever, but it seems a little bit more reasonable than what Redington's doing. With again, I just feel like 10 hours. I mean, speak to this in your knowledge of what you've done. Like, you don't go on very many 10-hour runs, do you, in your training?
No, yeah, I mean, I have gone on 10-hour runs in training, and it's just like a style thing. I think, Dallas, of course, he's, when a lot of these mushers, they prefer the shorter runs and shorter rests rather than the longer runs and the longer rests. Uh, but look, I mean, here Ryan Redington is out in first place. That's where it's gotten him. He's still moving pretty good. But yeah, it's not sustainable. But are you gonna run out of trail before you get to White Mountain? Or run out of, like, eventually you're gonna get to that finish line, And but the thing about long distance racing is, you set this we're gonna go back to this interview that I just thought was awesome. You're basically running your dogs in a manner that is sustainable for them to run infinitely, right? And so, you're running 1,000 miles. It's like, yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I think, I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. This is like competitive mushing. We're talking serious. I've never been in this situation, and it's all I can do is just speculate here. And I'm just really excited to see what happens when these guys get to Koyak. Are they blowing through or are they staying there? And sure enough, like Redington can literally, this is an interesting idea. Redington gets to Koyak. Pete Kaiser, maybe he's turning his headlamp off. Maybe he doesn't want Redington because from Koyak, you look back onto the sea ice, if it's not like, if visibility is good, you see the headlamp
Sure.
7 miles back,
Wow.
right? So if you're
Okay.
Pete Kaiser, and Ryan doesn't know, like, at what time did Pete leave Shaq Tulik. So he's looking back. I think at this point Pete's probably gonna have to use his headlamp at some point during this run. So maybe he has an idea of how far back. But this is where those mind games start to happen. And now you got a little bit of a chess match, right? Of course they're running the team in front of them, but the closer they get to the finish line, the more important it is to find out what the guy right behind you is doing or the guy right in front of you is doing. Um, so yeah, there's like a little bit of debauchery going on here. You kind of got to figure there's a little bit of mind games, and of course these guys have a ton of respect for each other. But yeah, it's you wonder what are those little details that you can't see on the tracker and you can't see in the videos necessarily, and they're only going to share so much in the interviews too.
Right. Man, I love that you brought that up, man. Just like the games, and like this is where you hear some of the stories of some of the trickery going on, and so that'll be interesting to see how things play out. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to kind of bring up here, or you know?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, like, Wade Mars has just as decent of it, almost the same chance as Matt Hall to get fourth place. It's like that those guys, they're I'm just that whole pack that's behind Richie Diehl, like you're gonna continue to see all these positions, switching. Um, and you know, just a ton of great Mike Williams Jr. He's running a pretty fast dog team. This guy's a veteran. He's finished top 10, and he's back in the race for the first time in a few years, and he seems like he's doing well. And Deke, he's been hanging back and being conservative with his team, and that's what I think. That's what did I say this about Jesse already to you, Brendan? About just how you love what he did, you know, how he was in the lead and he slowed down.
Yeah, you mentioned that how like you get that taste in your mouth of leading a race, and then it can be hard. Like uh, maybe that goes against you somewhere down the road where you drive your dogs a little too hard, trying to seek that out. But I won't steal the thunder of what you originally the point of what you were trying to make. So I'll let you finish your thought that you were bringing up.
It's like Jesse Holmes, like, was had a big lead between Eagle Island and Caltech pretty late into the race. They were approaching the coast, and he saw his dog slow down about 1 mile an hour. To not noticeable to most fans. And didn't like it. He's like, I'm running a fast dog team, and I want my dogs to be strong. He a lot of mushers 20 years ago, they might have said, all right, we're gonna just keep pushing, and maybe their speed will uh, pick back up. But he's like, dude, I'm not, you know, messing around here. Like this guy went. What you saw him do is he took. You thought he was going to blow through Caltag. Instead, no, he takes a big rest there. Then he leaves Caltag. He camps halfway to Unalakleet, takes a 6 hour rest, then goes. And so you're loving seeing a guy who, yeah, of course he wants to win the Iditarod, but like at what cost, right? So I just think that there's such a high level of integrity and dog care, and all these guys that are in this race, they know what really is important. It's not, yeah, okay, you want to win the race, but that's not the most important thing, It's driving a happy, strong, and fun dog team, and you don't want to make it not fun for you or for the dogs. And I just really appreciate that, competitiveness took second place to, hey, I want to keep my dog team fast. I want them to look good. I want them to be strong. I'm gonna take more rests, shorter runs. And I think, that's just rolls right back to how every single musher in this race is just crushing it. And they're all moving fast. And, you got guys like Ramey Smith, who, is perennial top 10 musher, and let's see where he's sitting right now.
Remy is.
Ramey is in Caltag. He's resting. He only got like a little over 1,000 miles on his dogs, where Brent Sass got 4 times as many miles on his dogs. So you think he's trying to be top 10? No, he's like, you saw his interview before the race. I got a badass dog team, and then what are they doing? Not running. So he started training the dogs November, December, and took a nice, easy training season. And then he just trained them along the trail. And, they had that base level of conditioning. He took it really slow and easy. And you see a lot of these examples of people just like, all right, I'm going to keep my dog team strong and fast. And it's just like, mushing's just getting better and better and better from that perspective of just driving a healthy, good looking dog team. Obviously in the 1970s, when this race is starting out, the dog care wasn't at the level that it is at right now, and you're seeing the results of it. And all these teams, just credit to everybody. It's so cool to see.
Oh man, this next 24 hours is going to be interesting. So let's real quick, let's just go back to things and let's just put an estimate on when they're going to be at White Mountain. Okay. So 921 is the mileage at White Mountain. And let's see. Ryan is at 798. Is that still? I'm sure the GPS has got a few more miles on that right now. 799, 800. Still pretty close. So from White Mountain, that would make it 120 120 miles. So they will be there. What do you think? 120 miles. Add on the distance from Shaktoolik, 77. So another 30, 150. So two runs, right? Break that up
From
from Shaktoolik. Break that up. Stop somewhere somewhere between Koyuk and Elam, and then get to White Mountain. Right? Run that.
That's a big play. That's what I'm saying. It's a big play. I want to quote some of my friends from the Grand Canyon trip. I remember I'd go on a hike, and I had my backpack on, and then we were like 7 miles into this hike, and I pull out a PBR, and they look back at me, and they see me drinking this PBR in the middle of the Grand Canyon. They're like, It's a big play right there, right? It's a power move. Okay, pulling out that PBR mid hike. It's important. You need to hydrate, and it feels good when you're
Hydrate.
looking at the Grand Canyon. You see? Do you see my where I'm going with this? By the way,
Hydrate or
Richie Diehl left
dihydrate?
Shaq Tulip.
Oh,
Yeah, and big play is going through Koyak and stopping halfway between Elam and Koyak, and I think it's bold and it's possible. It's on the table. I would really doubt that. I think Kaiser has a move in him, and I think Ryan Redington also does, but it would take like kind of an all-time dog team. It would take like one of the greatest dog teams ever to do that move after having run Caltag the Unilink cleat. That wouldn't just be the winner that did, or that might be, one of the best dog teams of this
so
decade. So,
so let's
we'll see. See what.
let's say that happens. So, uh, 150 miles essentially from Shaktoolik. Um, so you do like maybe you go a little bit over that and get closer to 80, depending on how the dogs are, and then so
Hmm.
80 is probably what, a 10-hour run if they're able to maintain the pace that they're at,
Yep.
and then you got to take what,
Four
four to five, depending.
minimum. I don't
Four,
know. I mean, you saw Redington go 10, rest 3.5, go 5,
right.
you know, 10 hours to 5 hours,
I
right?
just think
And this would be,
it's more likely to see Pete do that than Redington. I think Redington
I think,
has to do 3 runs here. He would be,
but I also think Pete's style isn't necessarily to do that. But
yeah.
I think that he has the team to do that. But
He
I
said it
don't
in an
know that he
interview.
will have, if he'll want to make that move. I don't know if that's what he's trying to do.
He said in
Because
an
it's
interview
big.
that his preference is to slowly chop at a lead as opposed to try to get it all at once. But
Right.
I just
Yep.
think that I mean, based on what we're seeing with the miles per hour, based on what Greg and Bruce are saying, like, I think he has that move in him. And I think that he has that, like, the dogs have that in the tank right now to pull it off. So I'd love to see him do it. I don't think Richie. I think Richie's gonna have to do 3. Don't you?
Yeah, I think there's no chance to you to like make some big move and catch up when you're that far behind the front too. So I think, and he's really far ahead. I don't know if he knows this, but he's far ahead of the people behind him. So I think you just run to Koyak, rest 4, run to Elam, rest 4, run to White Mountain, and you're looking when you get to Koyak, you can see, okay, this is what time those guys left. They're this far ahead, no rush. So I think he just kind of takes third. I think you just kind of take third, and you're there lurking if in case something were to happen. But it just does. I doubt that you're going to see Redington and Kaiser slow down. But look, I mean, on this run, that's Nick Petit took a wrong turn on this very same run, but that was when you were in a ground blizzard. Right now, it's blowing, but the visibility is probably decent.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of covering things here. Um, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything on any of the videos that I had any questions for you. Usually, I write down things
Oh,
that.
I did want to mention
Ooh, here we go.
that the interview with Matt Failer was really cool. It's another good one to watch.
I need
I
to
mean,
watch it.
look, you can just firstly,
Him
it's
and
so
Liz.
good, and it's Liz, her husband is Matt. They're married. They got a baby on the way, and like you can just see the chemistry. But then like Matt keeps it professional, and he's like, "Look, I am in love with you, and I will spend the rest of my life with you, but." This got you got to make some good content here. We can't be getting all lovey dovey, and so he kept it professional, right? And then uh, he explained that he is bringing pizza that because someone ordered them a pizza, and some of his sponsors ordered them a pizza and Unilicleat for Matt, and so he couldn't finish the whole large pizza, so he's bringing the rest of it to Shaktoolik to give to some of his homies that live in the village of Shaktoolik. So he's delivering pizza by dog sled, which is pretty sick when you're like top 10 and you stop and you do a 6-minute interview and full attention. He could have been that 6 minutes of sleep, precious, precious sleep, because he looked pretty tired and sounded tired. But he's just the attitudes of everybody in this race. I mean, I don't think I've seen one interview where someone looks like bitter. I think people have been. I mean, even Brent, he seems like he had a good attitude. Nick seems like he's got a little sore. Maybe he's, you know, I think he's still keeping a good attitude, but I wasn't seeing him super bubbly. But you don't need to be bubbly out there, man. You're freaking you got so little energy, and I think everybody's just kept a good attitude. And I think everything about this race is this is like exactly what it's all about, and I think everybody's just doing right by the dogs, doing right by the community, doing right about the event, and treating everyone well. And I love the general vibe of this race this year.
It's been really fun to follow. I mean, regardless of us doing this or not, like we would genuinely be having these same conversations over the phone right now, just being like, "Oh my gosh, are you watching this?" and just talking about the strategy and whatnot. The other one thing that I was just kind of thinking about is it was really nice to hear Dallas address like the fact that he's enjoying being a part of the race in a different role, and that he's able to like go to these checkpoints and actually get time to like chat with people that he's seen over the years. So I just thought that was kind of cool because like his mode is win the race mode, and that usually means that he doesn't usually have time to like chit chat when he gets to these stops. He's very like centrally focused. So I just thought that was kind of cool for him to like just say that, and just it's cool that he's not just like sitting back at home.
Yeah, man. I mean, I I I totally get it. Sebastian, he wants to be out there on the trail, and he took this year off. And it's all about the community, man. I mean, this event brings so many people together. Obviously, along the Iditarod Trail, all these connections that Dallas has made over the last 10, 15 years in this race. And then, of course, just like bringing me and you together and bringing the people that are watching us together. And, it's just like that's why, that's a big reason why we do this. It's just like such a great way to just make a positive human connection, and why not include some of the world's best athletes that are some of the happiest dogs on the planet, bringing those dogs with these people, hell yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, I think that's a good one, a good place for us to wrap things up.
Yeah.
We'll be back at it. These next 24 to 48 hours, there's going to be an interesting it's going to be an interesting race to follow and just see who does what. And I know the next video we get on, we'll be talking about, okay, did Kaiser decide to lay the hammer and send it, or did he just kind of keep slowly chucking away at it? So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of answers to these questions in the morning.
Alrighty, see you then.